I think it's incredibly self-centered that you think that this world is gonna fall apart just because you don't have kids. Growing up, I always used to say like, oh, I'm never having children, I'm gonna be child-free. But now that I'm slightly older, I understand that you can truly never say never because you don't know what could happen in the future. It's so normalized to expect like, oh, at a certain age that every woman wants to have kids. Like even if the ones that aren't in a relationship, it's like, oh, aren't you getting in a relationship soon? Like, you know, the clock is ticking. And I can't imagine how it must have felt for women back in the days when they knew deep down that they didn't want children, but they couldn't just say that out loud because it was like, what? You don't want children? What do you mean? That's your job. That's why you're here. You're here to procreate. I want to say though, a little disclaimer, this is not me hating on women wanting to have children, women that yearn for kids and yearn to be a mother, because I see too much of that content already and I don't want to be yet another woman to shame others for what they want. It's like, I hate when women call themselves feminist, but they only mean feminist in the sense that they want every woman to have the same opinions and want the same things as them. And if a woman is like, okay, I want to be a mother, to them that's almost like, oh, you're betraying what I think feminism is about. I just want this video to be about how I think we should approach this topic, because I think it's really important that we finally speak about the choice of either wanting or not wanting kids without it being black or white. Like, it's not about you either want to be a mom of 4 kids and be like a stay-at-home mom, or you don't want kids at all and you hate them and you think they're evil. Like, no, there's an in-between. There needs to be some sort of balance, and that's what I'm here to talk about. One thing that I definitely find very interesting is when people take it so personal when you say that you don't want kids. I feel like sometimes I can tell just from looking at a person and have like speaking or have like had a conversation with them how they're gonna react to me telling them like, oh, I'm not sure if I actually want kids. And I never say like, oh, I don't want kids, I hate them, blah, blah. I just say like, oh, I don't really see it in like my foreseeable future. I don't know, I don't think it's for me. And they get all defensive and stuff. They're so quick to call you names or say that, oh, you're so selfish. Matter of fact, I think it's the other way around, and I think it is incredibly self-centered of you to think that just because you don't have children that this world is missing out on something amazing. I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, but what makes your kids so special? And don't give me the, oh, well, but they could grow up and be, cure cancer because, well, they could grow up and be a terrorist. I despise this argument. And I know this is an argument that's used a lot, especially when we're discussing abortion. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, they could grow up and do this and that and that. It's all the what ifs that I hate, because you don't know, I don't know, we don't know that. That's not the point. We're here speaking about what this human that isn't even alive, that hasn't even been created yet, could do, could be. It's like, it's not a logical argument, so I don't understand why people bring that up as if it's gonna like blow my mind, because, well, I could literally say the same to you. Me or any other woman deciding to not have kids is simply a personal choice. Just like I don't want pizza for dinner tonight, it's just a choice. And I think it's a choice that actually should be honored and should be seen as, it's not brave, but I think it shows maturity. And I'm aware of the fact that there are a lot of cultures where women simply don't have a choice. Like, this is their only way out. Getting married and having kids is the only future that they know of, and they don't have any other options, and that is incredibly sad. And in those cases, I think it's really important to try to find solutions or ways to liberate them. But if you look at our case, there are so many things that should be in place before even considering having kids. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you would see that there is a hierarchy of, there are levels of human needs. So can you look at that hierarchy and tell others, and even convince yourself that, okay, I can offer this to my future child? And if you can, you're many, many steps ahead of people who just have children because that's like the natural, like, next step in their life. And then they go and shame people who don't, because again, it's like, how could you be so selfish? If there's one thing I hope we can learn, is that before having kids, please make sure that you can fulfill the needs of those kids or that child. Because there are so many parents today who shouldn't be parents, who think that just because they offer food, water, and shelter that they are good parents. when that is not the case at all. Another thing that I want to talk about is how a lot of times women get shamed for admitting that they don't want to go through pregnancy, like the physical aspect of it. And I'm kind of sick of it, because it's almost seen as this shallow thing. Like you're seen as shallow. But you guys have to remember that it's not always just about looks and being scared of not being pretty anymore. But it's like 9 months of pure pain. And I know that it's different from woman to woman, but in general, those 9 months are not comfortable. You can't even sleep on your stomach. 9 months of nausea, 9 months of just discomfort and having your life quality being decreased. And then after those 9 months, and you have to remember there are even women who lose their child in that process. Like imagine going through say 4 or 5 months of pregnancy and then you lose it. I can't even begin to like imagine how horrible that must feel. And there are those women who go through something like that and then try for another child are incredibly strong, and I really truly salute them for that. But say that, the women go through the 9 months and then after that you have labor, one of the most painful things a woman or a human can go through. Why are women being shamed for saying that or admitting that they're scared? I'm scared of going through that. That sounds painful. And let's not forget about the aftermath of childbirth, because a lot of women go through postpartum depression. And unfortunately, in a lot of cultures, this is something that is totally unknown or just ignored. So as a woman, not only are you internally changed forever, but externally you're also forever changed. And it's really interesting because if this happened to guys, they would never stop talking about it. Guys love going to the gym, having like a good physique, which is understandable. We all want to look good, we all want to feel good, we all want to be healthy. But imagine if you told them that they have to go through 9 months of pain, and then they have to go through labor, and then all of that progress is just gone out the window, and they have to start all over again, and most likely they will never look the same or the way that they looked before having a child. And if you told them this, they would look at you and laugh because they would never do that. But women are just expected to go through all this and then jump right back up and look amazing. And also, you have to remember, she now has a child to take care of. She has to breastfeed. She is like, there are so many expectations. So she has to look good, she has to be a good mother, a good wife, a good friend. A lot of women talk about how after they have had kids, they've lost all their friends because they just couldn't be there. Lastly, I want to bring up a point that has been talked about a lot, and that is not wanting to bring a child into this world. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. As of right now, I feel like we are regressing as a society. I don't feel like we're making any progress. I think that we are becoming more and more hateful. There's more homophobia, transphobia, racism than there was only 7 years ago. And I don't know if it's coming from a place of fear. Whatever it is, we need to do something about it. And I also don't know if this is like a generational thing where we make progress and then we regress, and like I don't really get it, to be honest. But like I mentioned earlier, we humans are not exactly the best at like learning from our mistakes. So I'm actually currently reading this book, which is in Norwegian, but it's about peace and war and just like being a pacifist, and it talks a little bit about like the First and Second World War. And you know what they say, like history repeats itself? Well, they're right, because when I'm reading this, it feels like I'm reading about 2026. So I just want to circle all the way back to my first point and just end this video by saying that just because you can have kids doesn't mean that you should. So peace and love, YOLO, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye.